Hi everybody, it's Wednesday and it's what we do Wednesdays. So as promised last week, I will show you a bit of a thing what fascia is like, as I said last week, to give you a bit better understanding of what I'm actually talking about when I talk to you guys about fascia. To explain it first, I'll use this grapefruit here to demonstrate. So when you look at a grapefruit or any kind of citrus really, you always have those compartments of the actual flesh being separated. So this is kind of like talking about our muscles, say if you're using the quadriceps, so your thigh muscles. There's 4 muscle strings and they're nicely separated from each other, just like these compartments here. So that separation happens by thicker fascia, which I kind of pulled this off here already. So it's that little bit of skin that separates those pockets of flesh from one another. However, even though that is separating, if I push here, juice is still also coming out, say on the top bit here, because the pressure is obviously transferred through the whole of the segments and not just where I'm actually applying the pressure here. So once we take off that bigger tissue, you then have all those tiny, where's actually the camera on this thing? I'm not sure if you can see that so well. Let's try it over here. There we go. So you might see it's like little bubbles, okay? And all these little bubbles are filled with juice and flesh, and that's kind of really how the actual muscle fibers itself are built as well. So one string of muscle is in reality a bundle of fibers all put together, which then appears as one. And all those little pockets have, again, around each itself a tiny bit of sheet fiber that encloses like a balloon, encloses and makes sure only that only when we pop them, they then start to release their juiciness. So to explain that a bit better on a piece of chicken, for example, and most of you would have handled it, this one is quite nicely because you can actually see the white here, which we would usually refer to possibly already as part of a kind of going into a ligament or tendon. So as connective tissue gets really, really thick, we talk about them as ligaments and tendons. But before that happens, what you have here is that see-through sheet that connects like a web all those different pieces. Okay, so you can see how thin it is here, and then it goes and bundles up with more of those really thin sheets and creates a bigger kind of sheet to get into this tendon-like piece here. Now, let's see if I can demonstrate that nicely. So as you can see, that the tendon itself really only runs along down here. So that's the main kind of tendon where it's really, really, really wide. But because we've got that connective tissue, and you can hopefully also see if I maybe turn this around. So these are what I said before. These are kind of your bubbles of muscle, and even these are combined of smaller pieces again. And even through here, you'll be able to possibly, hopefully, see how this is connected through this really, really fine tissue. And I'm just opening that up here. And can you also see by pulling it through here, how, see, for example, down here, this is moving. So I'm pulling up here and down right on the board, it's moving. This little fine kind of piece of tissue, of fibrous tissue, is able to move the whole piece of meat that I've got in front of me here. And that's what connective tissue does. And now I'm opening all this up and see how it's all webbed and it's kind of, I don't think this is going to come across here. Like when you look at it nice and closely, so go, if you've got a piece of chicken in the fridge, like go and actually have a look at it. it's quite amazing how it moves in, it's connected in all sorts of directions. It doesn't just kind of go one way. It's quite chaotic in a way, but still has a system to it, okay? So we've got this beautiful piece here. As I said, it's all very thin, and then as we get to the outside, it gets a bit harder again, because this is what's holding everything together. So without our connective tissue that holds our muscles in place, we wouldn't be able to actually stand upright. You take the bones away, as long as the connective tissue is still holding everything and connecting everything together, we don't necessarily need our bones to hold our posture, our setup. If you take the muscles away but leave the connective tissue there, and the bones, then you would still have, because you have anchor points of the connective tissue to the bones, which I might even be able to, I'm not sure if you can see that, but you can see again a thin kind of sheet here is actually connecting and wrapping itself around the bone. So even if you take the muscles away, if the connective tissue and the bones are still there, you're still going to be able to see our shape. So it's the connective tissue that's actually creating what we're seeing day in, day out when you look at yourself and when you look at other people or animals and even, trees and stuff like that. And it's not just muscle, soft tissue that we're talking about. Like connective tissue goes right into our blood cells. Red blood cells, for example, have always been classified as connective tissue, even way back. So it's surprising how sometimes something gets classified and then just never gets further explored or questioned. But science-wise, this is all opening up a lot more, and I should really stop playing with that piece of meat. But I just, always, like every time when I do chicken for the dogs, or when we heat some chicken, I always start dissecting stuff and take things apart. But as I said, this is more so to actually show you how you move the tissue up here, but things are moving down here. Okay, so if this was a muscle that's working and that's fine, and then connected to a body somewhere, and someone would come and go, oh, I've got a pain right down the bottom here. It's just that right in that spot. And then I go, okay, well, let's see, maybe you've got pain down here because something up here just keeps bundling up and bundling up and bundling up, and see how this is pulling that piece up. Now, if this is still connected to something else again down here, then this would be kept pulling into this direction as well. So then you're creating a hell of a force right through that piece here, because you've got something pulling up here, you've got something pulling on that side. The main force will happen in through here somewhere, and if that tissue wasn't as strong as it is, this could actually rupture. Okay, so if you have pain in one particular spot, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the spot where you've got an issue. And I've took this whole thing further than I actually wanted to, so we might go back into that as well, but I hope this gave you a bit better of an idea what I'm actually talking about when I am talking about fascia, and why am I so passionate about always talking about that everything is connected. And it may seem that I'm taking the easy way out sometimes, going, everything is connected, you are not making the effort to try and figure out what's actually causing the issue. But the bigger picture is unfortunately a lot more complicated, because to really find out where something stems from, you have to start peeling back the layers like in an onion to find out, okay, you got to fix this, what's happening now, then you fix that, what's happening now. So everything you do always has an effect and a ripple effect of what's going on in your body. And therefore, if you are having pain of any kind of sorts as well, it's not something that just happened, that just appeared. It's something that has built on top of layer on top of each other over possible years or decades for some people. So just because it is all of a sudden hurting, or it's all of a sudden ruptured, it's usually not because it's just happened, except it's like a sports injury or something where you've literally just overstretched something. But even that, most of the time, had a bit of an build up to it over time, because it hasn't been properly recovered or properly conditioned. So yeah, again, I've taken this way too far. But yeah, there you go. That's your connective tissue, that's your fascia, and This is my dog's food, so I better give that to Aja now, otherwise she's going to eat me up in a second. All right, guys, we'll see you again soon. And if you've got any questions or comment for that, then yeah, please let me know. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.